to me gathered round, oh my soul, friends to me gathered round, oh my soul, to love and to all friends I will sing, to love and to all friends I will sing, to love and to all friends who pain and sorrow mend, with thanks unto the end I will sing, with thanks unto the end I will sing.
Greetings and welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. To our members, friends, and everyone joining us in our virtual congregation on YouTube today. Hello, I'm the Reverend Robin Landerman Zucker, minister of this congregation, and I will be hosting our virtual recorded worship for today, Sunday, May 23rd, 2021, and we'll hear music from Stephanie Galloway and some recorded selections. Our guest speaker today is Sandra Lubarsky, preaching a sermon entitled Learning to be Rescuers. Sandra shared this brief bio with us. She writes, I am Professor Emeritus from NAU, where I taught religious studies and then founded the MA in Sustainable Communities program. At the end of my teaching career, I chaired the Department of Sustainable Development at Appalachian State University. I have a PhD in philosophy of religion from Claremont Graduate University, where I focused on process theology, Jewish theology, and interreligious dialogue. I've written several books and dozens of essays on interreligious dialogue, higher education, sustainability, and aesthetics. I now serve as president of Flagstaff College. I believe you will be very enriched by Sandra's message today. I was. We're glad you're here and that you've made Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation a part of this day in your spiritual life, whether you are a regular viewer or you are joining us for the very first time. We're here every week on YouTube, and we will be at home at 510 North LaRue Street as soon as it is safe to gather again in person. We are hoping to begin in-person worship in our sanctuary on Sunday, June 27th. So please stay tuned. You can check our e-news on our website or our website in general for that information, and our Facebook page. Our congregation is spiritually open and intentionally inclusive. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are always welcome here, and we will joyfully marry you here as well. Our members and friends bring many interests, theologies, and viewpoints to our door. And here we trust that you will find a common desire for meaningful community and spiritual growth, and for relevant religious exploration for all ages in a framework with very flexible borders. Membership in this congregation is open to anyone who chooses to walk with us in the spirit of love, the search for truth, and the pursuit of justice. As I light the chalice, the symbol of our free faith, I invite you to light a chalice or a candle at home and join in the response words you will see on your screen. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the darkness of isolation and are warmed by the fires of our interconnection. Beacon's mission and covenant express our values and our vision of ourselves as a gathered community in the world. Please join me in saying the mission and covenant. You will see the words on your screen. The mission of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation is to be a welcoming community that embraces diverse thought and belief and builds a just, peaceful, and compassionate world. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in kindness. Thus do we covenant. For our opening words today, I'm sharing a poem entitled How to Tell the Truth by Paul Williams from Nation of Lawyers. He writes, when you just have to talk, try to be silent. When you feel reluctant to say anything, make the effort to put what you're feeling into words. This is the place to begin. Pushing gently against the current of your own impulses in an effective technique for dislodging and discovering your truth. How to tell the truth? Taste it and remember the taste in your heart. Risk it from the bottom of your love. Take the risk of telling the truth about what you're feeling. Take the risk of telling your loved ones your secrets. It's true, you might be misunderstood. Look and see if you're willing to trust yourself to misunderstand each other and go from there. When someone speaks to you and you feel yourself not wanting to hear it, try letting it in. You don't have to agree that they're right. Just take the risk of listening as if they possibly could be speaking some truth and see what happens. Listen as if you can't always tell what the truth is. Listen as if you might be wrong, especially when you know you're right. Listen as if you are willing to take the risk of growing beyond your righteousness. Listen as if love mattered.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place,
Now is the time in our service when you are invited to share a personal joy or sorrow in the supportive presence of this community, even distanced from one another. We're holding one another in joy and sorrow. In a moment, there will be some quiet time for you to speak your own joys and sorrows into that space, but for now, I have several to share. Our friend Pia, who tells us that her brother has had a massive stroke and is on life support. Pia, we are sending you and your family all of our love and light and care and holding you at this difficult time. For the people of Israel and Palestine, caught up again, yet again, in a bloody conflict, this is a stone of peace that you can find a way to live side by side in one of the holiest of places. For those who are still staying quarantined and for those who are starting to get out into the world, it's another transitional time. Let us be understanding and patient and slow with one another as we celebrate coming back into more regular existence with one another. And for all those joys and sorrows that remain unspoken because they are either too tender or too private to share, let us remember that everyone is fighting their own private battle. We know not what it is, but because we're human, we know it to be true. So let us be kind, compassionate, flexible, and forgiving with one another. And as I've done every week during our virtual worship, our stone of hope. Let's never give up hope for a better world and a loving community and the wisdom to make it so. And now we'll enter into that quiet time for you to reflect on and speak your own joys and sorrows. And then we'll move into some breathing meditation music and an intentional breathing time, breathing in 4 beats in through our nose slowly, and 5 or 6 beats out slowly through our mouths in a steady stream, creating spaciousness as we go from the top of our heads to the bottom of our feet, eyes closed, arms and legs uncrossed, just being with the breath. Our reading today is a story recounted by the poet Naomi Shihab Nye called Wandering Around an Albuquerque Airport Terminal. And it is such a lovely example of goodness and not being a bystander. After learning my flight was detained for 4 hours, she writes, I heard the announcement. If anyone in the vicinity of gate 4A understands any Arabic, please come to the gate immediately. Well, one pauses these days. Gate 4A was my own gate. I went there. An older woman in full traditional Palestinian dress, just like my grandma wore, was crumpled to the floor, wailing loudly. "Help," said the flight service person. "Talk to her. What is her problem?" We told her the flight was going to be 4 hours late, and she did this. I put my arm around her and spoke to her haltingly. "Shu doa shu bidok habibti stani shwe mi fladik shobit siwi." The minute she heard any word she knew, however poorly they were spoken, she stopped crying. She thought our flight had been canceled entirely. She needed to get to El Paso for some major medical treatment there the following day. I said, no, we're fine. You'll get there, just late." "Who is picking you up? Let's call him and tell him." We called her son, and I spoke to him in English. I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane and would ride next to her on Southwest. She talked to him, then he called her other sons, just for the fun of it. Then we called my dad, and he and she spoke for a while in Arabic, and they found out, of course, that they shared some friends. Then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know and let them chat with her? This took up 2 hours. She was laughing a lot by then, telling about her life, answering questions. She had pulled a sack of homemade mamul cookies, little powdered sugar crumbly mounds stuffed with dates and nuts, out of her bag, and was offering them to all of the women at the gate. To my amazement, not a single woman declined one. It was like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the traveler from California, the lovely woman from Laredo. We were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling, and there were no better cookies. And then the airline broke out the free beverages from a huge cooler, non-alcoholic, and the 2 little girls from our flight, one African-American, one Mexican-American, ran around serving us all apple juice and lemonade, and they were covered with powdered sugar too. And I noticed my new best friend. By now, we were holding hands, had a potted plant poking out of her bag, some medicinal thing, with green furry leaves. Such an old country traveling tradition, always carrying a plant, always stay rooted to somewhere. And I looked around that gate of late and weary ones and thought, this is the world I want to live in, the shared world. Not a single person in this gate, once the crying of confusion stopped, has seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies. I wanted to hug all of these other women, and this can still happen anywhere.
People killing, people dying, children hurting, hear them crying. Can you practice what you preach? Would you turn the other cheek? Father, 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 help us. There's some guidance from above. People got me questioning, where is the love? What's wrong with the world, mama? People living like they ain't got no mamas. Think the whole world's addicted to the drama, only attracted to things that'll bring you trauma. Overseas, yeah, we're trying to stop terrorism, but we still got terrorists here living in the USA, the big CIA. Bloods in the Crips and the KKK. If you only have love for your own race, then you only leave space to discriminate. To discriminate only generates hate. When you hate, then you're bound to get irate. Madness is what you demonstrate. That's exactly how anger works and operates. Man, you gotta have love, this'll set us straight. Take control of your mind and meditate. Let your soul gravitate to love, yo. People killing, people dying, children hurting, hear them crying. Can you practice what you preach? Would you turn the other cheek? Father, 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 help us. Send some guidance from above. People got me questioning, where is the love?
weight of the world on my shoulder. As I get older, people get colder. Most of us only care about the money making. Selfishness got us following the wrong direction. Wrong information always shown by the media. Negative images is the main criteria, infecting the young minds faster than bacteria. Kids wanna act like what they see in the cinema. Yo, whatever happened to the values of humanity? Whatever happened to the fairness and equality? Instead of spreading love, we're spreading animosity. Lack of understanding lead away from unity. And that's the reason why sometimes I'm feeling under. That's the reason why sometimes I'm feeling down. There's no wonder why sometimes I'm feeling under. Gotta keep my faith until the love is found.
People killing, people dying, children hurt and hear them crying. Can you practice what you preach? Would you turn the other cheek? Father, 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 help us. Send some guidance from above. People got me questioning. Where is the love? The love, the love. Where is the love? The love, the love. Where is the love? The love. Where is the love? The love, the love.
My sermon today is entitled Learning to be Rescuers. Just a few weeks ago, Vilma Kari, a 65-year-old Asian woman, was assaulted as she was walking in downtown Manhattan on her way to church. You probably read about this and might have seen the brutal attack that was caught on a security camera of a nearby apartment building. The man who kicked her in the chest with such force that she landed on her back told her, "You do not belong here," and stomped on her while she lay on the ground. The actual assault was terrible. But it was not the only terrible thing that was caught on camera. The video showed 3 employees in the lobby of the luxury apartment building watching the assault. They saw the attack but did not intervene. One even closed the door while the attack was underway. Only after the attacker had walked away, after the woman's pelvis was fractured and her head was swollen and bruised, did the men emerge from the hotel lobby, step out, and call the police. In their decision to witness the event and not to intervene, they gave us a chilling example of what it means to be a bystander, to look on like a spectator, but not to be involved in order to help. The 3 Minneapolis officers who did nothing to stop Derek Chauvin from pressing his knee into the neck of George Floyd gave us another dreadful example of the way that doing nothing contributes to great harm. Most of us are appalled by the behavior not only of the perpetrators of harm, but by those who stood by passively, fully aware of the brutality unfolding in front of them, but choosing to remain passive, perhaps telling themselves there is nothing they can do, perhaps convincing themselves that the victim deserved the treatment they were receiving, perhaps paralyzed by confusion, perhaps fearful, perhaps simply indifferent. Though we don't know for sure how any of us would react in circumstances like these, extreme and unexpected, we do know this: it is not sheer accident that some people come forward and become rescuers, and others step back or to the side and become bystanders. And we also know this, that large-scale social upheaval caused by political instability, economic depression, and war is one of the fundamental factors leading to the act of incivility, violence, and to the social insanity we call genocide. And we know, sadly, that in many ways, this is the world we live in. Rescuers are people who, under extreme conditions, voluntarily put their well-being at risk in order to diminish cruelty and protect the vulnerable. In a time of increased instability on so many fronts, I think we need to make the study of rescuers and rescue behavior a focus of our attention, and in particular, part of our educational curricula, and our religious concern. It's useful to start with reminding ourselves that most people regard themselves as good. In her interviews with rescuers, bystanders, and Nazi supporters, the researcher Kristen Monroe found that even genocidalists, quote, want to feel they're doing good. People, she says, do not arrange themselves along a moral continuum with the goal of defining themselves as evildoers or people who ignore the needs of others. She cites Philip Gurevich's similar realization in his chronicle of the horrors of the Rwanda-Burundi genocide. Quote, people don't go forward to kill saying, this is the end of the world and I'm a pig and I will kill you. They go forward and they say, this is the beginning of a better world and I am a purifier. This is going to bring harmony. Making goodness, kindness, and altruism a subject for careful analysis can help us to be less vulnerable to this kind of distortion and deception. Studying rescue behavior erodes the seemingly unremitting power of depravity, and it strengthens our psychological and ethical expectations. We can come to know a set of possibilities that include the capacity to act responsibly and lovingly, even in very, very grim circumstances. When I first started reading rescue literature, I was surprised to learn that there are no demographic generalizations that can be made about rescuers. None of the following categories help to determine who would be a rescuer: not gender, age, or education, not religious affiliation, not wealth or the lack of it, not the level of education, not your politics or profession, and not even status as married or single. None of these distinctions mattered. What did matter is the way rescuers understood themselves in relation to others. Over and over in her interviews with rescuers, Holocaust researcher Kristen Monroe heard people express their steadfast belief in a common humanity. When she asked rescuers why they had risked their lives to help strangers, they responded with bewilderment. But what else could I do? They said. They were human beings like you and me. One author recalls telling a group of rescuers from the French village of Le Chambon, where 3,000 Jews were saved, that he thought they were good people. Their response was to laugh in amazement. Quote, they saw no alternative to their actions and to the way they acted, and therefore they saw what they did as necessary, not something to be picked out for praise. Helping these guests was for them as natural as breathing or eating. The idea that we are all interconnected, that we share a common humanity, was simply an expression of who they were. It is for this reason that rescuers tend to describe their actions as ordinary, as what any decent person would do. This sensibility is found both in rescuers who acted during times of genocide and those who act in less extreme historical circumstances. Monroe tells the story of a San Diego man who literally saved a child from the jaws of a mountain lion. Quote, he tracked the mountain lion down, picked up a big stick, and started attacking it so that the mountain lion would get mad at him and drop the child. But when asked after receiving an award to talk about what he did, the man emphatically disputed his heroism. Quote, no, I didn't want this award, he said. I didn't do anything unusual, and I shouldn't have gotten an award. It's what everyone should do. In contrast, bystanders responded to inquiries about their behavior with a completely different sense of their relationship to others. Instead of a sense of common humanity, they thought of themselves as individuals alone against the Nazis, living in a world divided between us and them, and between insiders and outsiders. In answer to Monroe's questions about the choices they made during the Holocaust, their general response was, "What could I do? I was one person, alone against the Nazis." They saw themselves as embattled, under siege, wronged, and or needing to protect themselves, and they believed there was nothing they could do or had to do. The narrative that informs our identity matters. If we tell ourselves, as our economic theory of the rational man claims, that we are fundamentally individual egos who seek to do what's best for ourselves, maximizing utility in order to increase personal advantage, then we will interpret altruistic behavior either as a form of ego satisfaction or as its mysterious opposite, as exceptional, heroic, even saintly, but also as abnormal and rare. But if we see ourselves as fundamentally social beings, members of a network of relations, part of a fellowship of human beings, then the impulse to help another human being will be seen as normal and natural, an expectation of being human. It's time we start telling this version of the story to ourselves. So let me just quickly summarize some of the things that ought to be included in this new story. There is a burgeoning collection of research validating this social narrative. A series of absolutely charming studies provides evidence that children as young as 18 months of age, pre-linguistic or just barely linguistic, readily help others. In one study, the researcher drops a clothespin on the floor and strains to reach it. Once the baby realizes the situation, he or she crawls or toddles over, picks up the clothespin, and hands it to the researcher. It seems to be an entirely natural desire to be of help. The work of Frans de Waal with capuchin monkeys and other primates offers evidence that primates also have an inborn sense of fairness and a desire to help. Recent studies show rats helping other rats to obtain food, even male rats helping other unrelated male rats. There is good reason to believe that the desire to help others is part of our evolutionary history. We know that rescuers tended to be raised in homes where love was in abundance and children were encouraged to practice kindness. We know that these same parents disciplined their children by means of reason and explanation, gave their children a sense of self-worth, encouraged them to stand up for their beliefs, and never to simply follow the crowd. Let us do this. We now know through recent studies that people who witness the behavior of moral exemplars are motivated to be kind and caring to others. When subjects in a study were exposed to examples of moral excellence, there was a marked increase in their motivation to do good things for other people, become a better person, and emulate the virtuous role model more generally. The authors confirm what we have long known, that exposure to virtuous acts not only positively affects the way people view the world, but it changes the way people act. It's a powerful thing to come in contact with examples of goodness. Let us promote these examples, multiply them, and be them. And here's another thing we've had confirmed through recent studies: knowledge matters. Researchers have found that people with little understanding of policies related to social justice are less concerned with social responsibility. When business students were exposed to information about such things as minimum wage, parental leave, and sick leave, they became supportive of policies related to corporate social responsibility. Knowledge is important to our efforts to achieve social justice. Let us help each other to become better informed. We also know that rescue efforts almost always depend on a network of relations and strong community bonds. In that little town of Le Chambon, where 3,000 Jews were saved, individuals managed to shelter Jews in their homes because there was a secret network of support providing food as well as information. And more than that, every Sunday when the community gathered in the church, acts of generosity were affirmed by the community as a whole. In the much more superficial conditions of lab studies, there's clear evidence that altruistic behavior is difficult to sustain in the midst of non-cooperation. In order to be good, we need to be good together. Let us do this. Above all, we know this. The primary characteristic of rescuers and the singular common trait that they shared is their deep-seated belief in our common humanity. Rescuers believe that human beings are basically the same, that the differences between us are secondary. This was the primary motivating factor in responding to the suffering and the needs of others. Someone once said, quote, "To preach or teach the inevitability of traditionally conceived self-interest in all human activities is the greatest tool for the maintenance of the status quo. Identity is tied to social narratives, and our social fabric is shaped by the stories we tell ourselves about who we are in relation to each other. It is time for us to claim the story about human relations that shows that self-interest is not adequately descriptive of the human condition. Rescuers teach us that we are deeply shaped by the way we see ourselves in relation to others, by cultural expectations, by examples, and by a sense of our own capacities and power. Rescuers are not born, but made. We can learn to be them. Let it be so."
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are standing on the side of love, hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are standing on the side of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are standing on the side of love, hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are standing on the side of love. A bright new day is dawning, when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are standing on the side of love, hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are standing on the side of love. We are standing on the side of love.
Each week in our service, whether we are here in our physical sanctuary or here in our virtual sanctuary, we take an offering for Beacon, for our building, for our programs, for our staff, for our outreach. There are two ways for you to donate to Beacon today. You can go to our website, beaconuu.com, find the donate button, and make a secure online donation through the Vanco application. If you use this method, we ask that you use a bank account rather than a credit card or a debit card to save us some fees, so there'll be more for Beacon. Or you can send us a check to Beacon, 510 North LaRue Street, Flagstaff, Arizona, 86001. Either way, we are so grateful for your generosity to Beacon, especially during what has been a challenging and transitional time, and it will enable us to move forward back to in-person worship and all of our programming in a stronger place. So thank you very much. And finally, at the end of our service, we come together and we hold hands in a circle, feeling tangibly the love, the connection, and the strength and presence of this community. So I invite you to reach out your hands as if we were in fact holding hands here in our beautiful sanctuary, feeling that connection. Because whether we are together or apart, we are Beacon, always connected. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen. In closing, I offer these words from Thessalonians. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings.